we have a few announcements. We definitely want to thank our sponsors for hosting us every Wednesday, starting at about 11:45. We gather outside in the iLearn community and we chit chat. And then our networking and get together starts at 12 noon Eastern time. So for those of you who are here, please thank Frame, please thank Verbella, I should say, and please thank the iLearn community for allowing us to have our meetings together. We are letting you know that we are super, super duper excited about being able to have our XR Women Awards at AWE. We're going to be on the main stage Thursday, June 1st at 11 a.m. PST. So the awards that we give out are the Real World Impact Awards, the Trailblazer Award, and the Innovation Award. In just a second, I'm going to talk to you about how you can nominate women to receive, to be considered for these awards. But for now, mark your calendars for June 1st. If you can't be with us in Santa Clara, we are still hoping that you'll be able to be with us virtually. We're working on that. Of course, I would be remiss in telling you that I was the Real World Impact Award winner for 2022. So just so y'all know that. So at this point, we'd like to recognize some of our visitors. Anyone new in the audience right now, go ahead and raise your hand, unmute, and share a little bit about yourselves. Nice. I think that's Amy. Amy, I'm going to mute myself and share a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm Amy Parent. I am learning engineering space with a focus in instructional design and educational technology. And I heard about XR Women from Kristen Torrance over at Tailspin. And this is my first event.
We are so happy that you're with us, Amy. Hopefully it won't be your last. Anytime you can get away at this time of day on Wednesdays, we want you to join us. Welcome. Who's next? All right, looking good out there. I hope you guys have a chance to talk in the chat, get to know each other. The chat box is down in the lower corner. You're able to type messages that we all can see. And if you wanted to message someone individually, at the top left-hand corner of your screen, next to a person's name, you can click the arrow and send a private chat. So feel free to engage. On our screen, you can see that we have a mailing list. If you'd like to receive our newsletter that's been filled with up-to-date information, you can scan the QR code with your phone or mobile device and join our invite. And thanks, Robin, for this cute little QR code. I really like that. That's neat. I'll leave it up there just a few more seconds while you guys grab a screenshot of that. We also have a Slack channel. And so we'll talk some more about Slack in a moment, but you can nominate yourself or another XR woman for the Augie Awards. And the Augie Awards take place at AWE. I think we start AWE in Santa Clara May 31st. May 31st through June 2nd. You guys can correct me in the chat if I'm mistaken about that. But the deadline for nominating yourself or anyone else is April 7th. So please be mindful of that. AWE, if you've never gone, is so much fun. I went for the first time last summer. I was in California, and then I took a trip in October to Lisbon to do AWE Europe, and that was fantastic and spectacular. And I even think Sonya put out a call for AWE proposals for Asia. So right now, AWE Asia is accepting proposals if that's something you're interested in. But for sure, for the event that's taking place in Santa Clara, the deadline to nominate yourself or others, especially women and especially our XR women, deadline April 7th. I want to give it up for our very own Jenna Lambert. She is going to be highlighted with the VR AR Chicago crew. She's talking about patient-driven health. The way you can check out Jenna on April 5th is by going to the stream, awe.live. It'll be live streamed. or you can try to find her on Open Campus in Verbella. Now, if you haven't had a chance to check out the Open Campus in Verbella, please do so. On April 5th, it would be a prime opportunity to do it because that's where Jenna will be talking. It's 6 p.m. And I'm going to say, what, Jenna, is that PST? Oh, no,
Central
6
time.
Central time. Central. Thank you, Caroline. 6 p.m. Central time. The VR AR Chicago group is amazing. They have lots of great speakers, lots of great topics, and it's a pretty heavy lift because they're both in person and streaming online and streaming in a virtual world. To me, it's spectacular, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing Jenna and her talk. And if you have any questions about that, you can always reach out to Caroline Dennis. Caroline Dennis is here today, and she is the contact for VR AR Chicago. Upcoming events, IEEE VR Plus, 3D user interfaces, March 25th through the 29th. I guess today would be the last day for that one. Lavo Virtual has a conference coming up April 12th through the 16th. And then finally, as I've mentioned, AWE USA, May 31st through June 2nd. If you want more information about those upcoming events, feel free to check out our Slack channel. Ready or not, here comes AI. Okay, I won't do that to y'all anymore. I won't do that. Apple acquired a startup using AI to compress videos. And then of course, Microsoft Copilot, we know, is the big thing that's happening now. I have not had a chance to use the Microsoft Copilot. I put my name on the waiting list. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely have this huge fear of missing out. And I never want to miss out. So whenever there's an opportunity to put my name on the waiting list, I do so that I can find out the latest and greatest things. So check out those two articles and the links are there. Those links can also be found in our Slack. You're going to hear me saying Slack quite a bit because although we meet here on Wednesdays, we live in that Slack channel. That is literally where we get our up-to-date information. We chat, we hang out, we talk, we find out about speaking engagements, we find out about other events. We let each other know when we're going to be at events. And with this in mind, I happen to hear you guys on the launch pad saying that the Fat Boy Slim is sold out. I think I heard y'all say that if you didn't get your ticket already, if you didn't register already, then you may not be able to go to this particular one. But they're always good. They're always fun. And in the future, the lesson learned is don't wait. Once you hear about something that you're thinking about attending, go ahead and register as quickly as possible. But that's Fat Boy Slim, and it's going to be an XR Women dance party. Congratulations to our own Athena Demos. She made the cover of the Embracing Web3. She made the cover with her title, Embracing Web3 Goodies, and this is on the Adello magazine. So we're super excited for her for making that cover. Coming up on April 5th, our speaker will be Victoria Busis. It's a meet and greet elevator pitch workshop. So how you can express your skills and talents, what products you're offering, or what services you're providing in a nice, easy, and engaging way. Victoria is going to share that with us. On April 12th, we'll have Helen Irwin. You won't want to miss Helen. Her topic is leaving my homeland and growing roots in 2 countries. I almost feel like being in the metaverse is being part of another country sometime. And that whole idea of putting down roots and making it a part of your weekly or monthly celebration, or if you're doing business in the metaverse, how do you actually create community there? So I'm looking forward to Helen's talk. Louise Edwards is going to take us on a field trip. So on April 19th, we're going to meet here on the iLearn campus and listen to Louise share some interesting information about the forwards and protecting oceans through VR. Marianne Morrow and Caroline Dennis will have a fireside chat about raising capital. That's on April 26th. And of course, our speaker for today is Sonya Haskins. I'm going to call Jenna up to give Sonya her amazing introduction. Thank you all. That's our announcements.
Thanks, Gina, for
Yay!
that. Thanks for that introduction. I appreciate it. And I always think it's funny when you wear a lot of hats to hear which intro you're going to have that day. So, I do wear a lot of different hats, but today I'm here to chat with you guys about talk proposals, and I'm honored to do that. Thanks for having me here. And hopefully I'll be able to pass along some helpful information to you. Now, basically, this talk has been designed with some tips that should be useful not just for AWE, but as far as your speaking in general, speaking engagements for XR or other opportunities. But some of this will be specific to our event, but other tips here will help you throughout. So basically, the first thing I wanted to talk about was how it's good to know your audience. And that sounds like sort of a maybe something that seems obvious, but it really isn't. And, when you're curating or you're doing programming for an event, frequently you will have submissions come in that either are completely irrelevant. Generally speaking, we're probably not going to accept a talk about how to do the best embalming, let's say. So, I mean, you generally want to know what your conference is about when you're submitting a talk proposal. And so it's good to keep that in mind. Specifically, though, like with AWE, for example, and some of you guys may know this or you may not know this, but like 24% of our attendees are developers and 23% are corporate buyers. So those are important pieces of information, because you want to know when you're developing your talk, who are you developing this talk for? This isn't like AWE, for example, is an XR event, XR specific. That means we cover AR, VR, and we do some things that are related to that, such as, of course, Web3, AI, and then the various areas of those fields like healthcare and wellness, gaming, entertainment, but they still have to be related to XR. So, for example, you can't just take a talk like how to avoid stress in the workplace and slap the letters XR on it and expect that to be a good talk, because that's not specific to that audience, if that makes sense. And so that's something to keep in mind whenever you're developing these talks. Know your audience, the attendees who are going to be hearing your talk, and then also the event itself. Like for us and most conferences, there are tracks or certain areas that you would want to speak in. So like, for example, for us, we have developer track, creator track, enterprise, XR enablement, healthcare and wellness. We have various tracks that if you submit a talk and it's very, very difficult for me to know which track that goes on, frequently I will tell people that and ask them to maybe rewrite their proposal so that it's very clear what track it goes on. And sometimes I'll get a response of, well, this is just such a great. Oh, you can't hear me? Gina, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
We can hear. Yep.
Sonia. Yeah. Who was
Okay,
it?
I see in chat someone's having difficulty, so I'm not sure.
Oh, Manisha. Oh, okay, Manisha. You can go to the top right to the gears menu, and there is an audio settings option, and also reinitialize voice. Yeah, sorry.
That's no problem. We want to make sure you can hear us for sure, all of you. Um, so I was just going to say it's good to make sure that you know which tracks, and don't assume that if you don't know where your talk should go, and as far as like you don't have a good idea of what placement it would have. Let's say you really are a healthcare and wellness expert, but you present a talk that kind of really doesn't fit there. Well, then if I ask you to rewrite that a little bit to make sure it's very clear that it's for that track and that audience, sometimes people will message back and say things like, well, it's such a great talk that it just goes on main stage. That's why it's not very clear where it belongs. And, the thing is, if you don't exactly have your talk focused enough or tailored enough for the audience, then that's probably not going to end up on main stage. That's not the best solution to a problem that already hasn't been solved, which is the focus of your talk. So those are just some things about knowing your audience and the event itself, and making sure you pay attention to what you're actually writing for the proposal. That brings me into writing for the attendees. When you write a talk proposal, this is generally across the board, regardless of what conference or event you're submitting to. You want to submit a good proposal that's maybe a couple of paragraphs, has a good title, make sure it's an engaging title. So if you just say something like, best XR talk about gaming, well, that's so vague, and I would never ever know what that exactly stands for or means. And most attendees are going to see that, and it's not going to pique their interest to want to go to that talk. And so the talk title and the description should be written in such a way that attendees want to come to that talk. And the one that comes to my mind, which is really horrible actually, but I mean, it's horrible that this is the one that comes to my mind. But for AWE, there's a talk with Avi Barziv, and the title is something like Beyond the Hype and Beyond the Bullshit or something. It's like, it just catches it piques my interest, because there is a lot of hype and there is a lot of crap out there. And so that really is interesting to the listener, I think, to say, okay, well, that's a great title, but now what are you going to show me? What are you going to give me that actually goes beyond that? And I think the talk description does that, the actual couple of paragraphs there that talk about it. So that's an example of where you want to have a description that grabs the reader's attention, and that is something where they can look at it and say, oh yes, we want to attend this session. Now remember, you're writing that for the attendees, not for me. If you send me a 3-page dissertation on why you're the very best person to be speaking at this event, first of all, I don't have time to read 3-page bios of every person who submits something. And I also generally, sometimes I will help people. I really go out of my way to try to help people curate the best talk and description and find the best placement for them, because I'm a community person at heart and I love working with the community. So I want to make sure people do find their spot. But at the same time, if you really truly just don't know what you're good at or where you belong, then maybe a talk isn't the best placement at that point in time. Maybe doing something else. There's so many other opportunities that maybe something else is good for that moment in time. And so it's always good to have your plan in advance, but remember that you're writing it for the attendees so that they read your session description and say, this is what I want to go to. I don't want to miss this talk. And they put it in their calendar. The next thing is proofread. So sometimes I'll receive submissions that have like, maybe they're intriguing or interesting, but they have so many errors that first of all, if I have to correct all those to even put it on the website as a talk description and title, I don't mind to do that at all. Like, this part of our job is to make things look the best. However, it's one thing to have 1 or 2 errors, but it's another thing to have no punctuation, lots of grammar issues. And I don't mean grammar as in someone who obviously speaks another first language. I mean, like, obvious, someone's just throwing this out there to submit it because they think it's going to be accepted regardless. So, just take the time, be respectful, take the time to proofread, check the spelling, punctuation, grammar, and make it something that your name is going to be on this, not only our name, but your name. So when it goes on the website to show that you're doing that talk, is this how you want to be represented? Like, if I didn't fix every issue with the proposal and the title, and I just put it on the website, is that how you would want to be represented? That's the question I would ask myself if I were submitting a proposal. That's another thing to keep in mind. About being diverse, obviously this has different meanings. And so I want to clarify here a couple of different things. First of all, being diverse, if you submit a talk and I'm saying this to everyone because this comes from men and women across the industry. Please do not send me a talk with all male panelists. If I receive a submission, whether it's from a man or a woman industry expert, and all 4 panelists, let's say you're the moderator or you're curating a talk, but all the other panelists or moderator that you submit are men, then I can just about guarantee you I'm going to deny that talk. Obviously, we want the most qualified professionals in the industry to be on these panels and the joint sessions and any sessions. But at the same time, there are skilled, qualified professionals in the industry who fit other demographics. So it's important that you do some work and step out and try to find them, because I can guarantee you I spend a large portion of my time, probably larger than anyone realizes, trying to make sure that we have a diverse agenda in terms of gender parity, racial diversity, and even things like speakers who maybe have different, who are blind or have other physical challenges and stuff. So I shouldn't be the only one trying to do that. Our talk presenters who submit proposals you guys can also help achieve those goals by finding those qualified people in the industry who are doing that work and also inviting them to speak with you. That would be very, very much appreciated. The other thing about being diverse is this is a totally different take on it, completely switching gears here for a second. But another thing is, don't necessarily do the same thing as everybody else in terms of your talk. So like last year, let's say last year I received, I can't remember, maybe 500 submissions. And I just about bet you 498 of them had the word metaverse in it. And so, you don't have to always do the same thing as everybody else. Be yourself, be creative, and submit something unique. So diversity in this sense is also the sense of making sure you're being diverse in your thinking as well. So that I put that there, but it has a double meaning. So remember both of those meanings if you share this with anyone else or review it in your own mind. Avoid sales pitches. This is a huge one for me. And hopefully for you guys as well. When you attend conferences and events, the last thing any of us wants to see is or sit and listen to is a sales pitch. I don't know about you guys, but if I want a sales pitch, I don't even have regular television, but occasionally I'll go on YouTube and look at something that I would consider a sales pitch. If I want to see sales pitches, I go and look for them, which I do sometimes, and I enjoy that. I also maybe see ads on things like Facebook or whatever. Don't mind that at all. If I'm in the mood for that and I want to hear it, I'm very receptive, and I definitely enjoy having those sales pitches. However, when I go to a conference, I want useful, beneficial information. So I tell people it either needs to be educational, informative, or inspirational. It needs to, in some way, give something to the audience that they can't simply go pull off a YouTube channel. If you have the best trailer, let's say for your app or your game or whatever, your product in the world, you have the best trailer. Well, I can go look at that on YouTube, or you can share it to me in a moment in the hallway and talk about your product. I don't need you to be on stage talking for 20 minutes about your trailer and how great your product is. So there are unique cases where there are times, like, for example, if we're announcing a brand new product everybody wants to hear about, that's a fantastic example of where you can present something unique and new, but that's still not a sales pitch. They're presenting the product and the information about this announcement. When I talk about sales pitches, basically what that means is don't, well, for example, if you're going to do a talk, it's always good to have someone there with you. And if that person is from a different company, you're more likely to talk about the topic versus the single thing you're trying to sell to a person. So anyway, hopefully everybody understands what that means. Unless you're going to a conference that specifically is intended for sales pitches, then don't send sales pitches as your talk proposal. Next thing, submit a focused talk. Probably this is a big issue. Like I know for me personally, and I'm sure a lot of other conference organizers, you receive submissions that people don't seem to understand what their talk is about. And the thing is, if you don't know what your talk is about, how am I supposed to know what the talk is about? And so it should be focused and have a particular goal or a question that it's going to answer. It should be something for the audience. That's another thing. It should be a focused talk, but it should benefit the audience, not yourself. And that again goes back to the whole sales pitch thing as well. But this should be things that benefit the audience. Make sure the talk, in terms of a focused talk, that also should include not being fluff. Now, ladies, I will say this more to this particular group, being women. This tends to be more of a, oh, that's too bad. Christine says her audio is messed up as well, but hopefully that's not affecting a lot of people. So that's sad. I was going to say, make sure that a talk has substance, and I do tend to get more quote fluff top talks from women, submitted from women, than men, and basically what that means is they aren't as technical or directed. Maybe they're more vague in their substance versus specific. And sometimes that's useful. Sometimes it's something we're looking for. But for the most part, narrow talks that have a very specific purpose in mind for the audience so that they know exactly what they're getting out of it are more desirable versus something that says, let's say, for example, why XR is the greatest invention ever made. That's very vague. It's not specific. It's not focused. Or how XR can change your world forever or things. So those are the types of things where it doesn't necessarily provide the greatest benefit to the audience. And so I encourage you to chat with me privately, or also to talk with your other friends and find out what is your specific skill, what is your talent or your area of expertise. Don't be afraid to focus on that. Like, who was it in the audience I met? Sarah, I think it was Sarah. We were chatting about using XR for people in prison. Now, I actually have somebody I'm talking with that they use XR to help people in prison reform their mindsets about things. And basically they expose them to lifestyles and lives and alternatives so that when they get out, they will have a better knowledge of what's going on in the outside world, but also have practical, they'll be able to practice it in VR because, it's very immersive, and they'll be able to practice positive interactions and to know what to expect. For example, what do you do if you go to a job interview? How to behave? What if someone makes you angry? How do you respond to that in a way that's not going to land you back in prison? And so there are many useful things like that. That's a very specific use case, but that's an example of something I would definitely consider for the healthcare and wellness track as a use case example of XR. And so normally we don't get that particularly specific, but I do think some things are so good and they point to specific positive use cases for the technology that it's good to include those. The next thing, bring an end user. This is incredibly important. One of the best ways you can have a talk accepted for us personally, I know, and probably for other conferences as well, but is to bring an end user. And that means an end user would be like Toyota or, car companies, Target, Walmart, places like that. There's a difference between an end user and your collaborator or client, like say Google, Microsoft, Facebook, companies like that. A lot of people think when I say bring an end user that we want them to bring that we're saying big companies. Like if you work with Facebook, then they want to invite somebody from Meta, let's say Meta, to speak with them. Well, we generally have speakers from, like at our event and other events too, but we generally have speakers from the larger companies, and those guys are very engaged and active. But when we say end users specifically, we're talking about companies that we don't necessarily always see, but who are using the technology. Like we want to know who's using the technology and how. It's not only inspirational, but it's also a good opportunity to set an example for other companies to say, wow, look at this. I mean, Denny's just did an AR, Denny's, the restaurant, did an AR menu. And that's very cool. That's very interesting to us. And that's something that other people need to know. And then other companies, the buyers and companies that are at the event can say, wow, well, Denny's did this. We could do this too. It helps the industry grow when we see end users using these tools. As far as the other companies, it's always great to see them there. And we're happy to see any companies. And we try to make sure I have a diverse agenda as well in terms of companies. Going back to that word just a second with yet another meaning. And sometimes, let's say I already have 3 talks with speakers from a particular company. Sometimes I might ask someone if they already had invited somebody from that company. Well, maybe we could try a different company just so that we don't have an overwhelming number of speakers from the same exact company. So that's something to keep in mind too, that if you find a unique end user, then most likely they haven't already been featured on stage. So that's another beneficial thing to keep in mind. Be respectful. That basically involves things like submit your talk on time. Try, if possible, to make sure that it is written for the attendees, like with the proper grammar, punctuation, things like that. Also, understand that we can't always do everything requested. Like, for example, if you submit a talk that is really better suited to a 25-minute talk versus a panel, then probably there are reasons for that. Either we don't have the space, or maybe the talk just doesn't feel like something that would need a whole 55 minutes. And so that's something to keep in mind as well. Just be respectful of your organizers and the requests that they're making. Reaching out directly, this is something that applies specifically to me. I do maybe recommend this for other conferences, but you would have to find out if that's good for them. But for our conference in particular, you're more than welcome to email me directly. I'm going to drop my email in chat. And you can reach out. We've almost gone through all the talks that were submitted for this spring, for June, and May 31st to June 2nd. I just have a few more things to look over before I finish either providing acceptances or rejections to those. And but you're welcome to reach out to me, and I can look stuff up directly. If you need help with that sort of thing, check with your friends and have them look over things and give you feedback. And then also you can email me. Sometimes it takes me a while to respond, but I eventually will get back to you. And you are more than welcome to message me more than once. If it's taking too long, I don't mind that. But reaching out directly sometimes can be a tool that you can use when submitting talks, because it just gives a little extra attention. with seeing rejection as opportunity, I want to talk about several different things here. One is back to reaching out directly. If you have a talk that you really truly believe in and you feel like it was rejected, but yet you just really, really think it should belong there. Well, I'm a firm believer in passion. And if you're that passionate about it, maybe I need to give it a second look. So for me personally, for AWE specifically, you are more than welcome to reach out and say, hey, I really thought this was a good talk. Feel free to ask me to take another look. I'm happy to do that. And then just remember that if the answer is still no, then there are reasons for that. But sometimes the answer will be yes for sure. And let's give it a go. Bear in mind that a lot of times the decisions are not necessarily whether your talk is fantastic. Sometimes we just don't have enough space. You have to remember, we only have so much space. We have 3 days of sessions, and there are 12 stages, and our main stage. And so even though that sounds like a lot, there's only so much room for so many talks. And so sometimes I will send back and say something like, this is a good talk, and I'd be interested in having it on our AW Live platform. That's our online platform. Basically kind of looks like Zoom as far as the way you see it. You see the video and the presenter, but it's through awe.live. And if you receive an invitation to speak on awe.live, I want to give you a couple of tips here. First of all, that's not really a rejection of your talk. Trust me, when I send people rejections of their talks, usually it's just a rejection. It's just like, okay, this is being rejected. And we don't invite all people to give those talks on AWE Live. For the ones that are, that means I really think it's a good talk. We just don't have room for it in the live event. Okay, so that's, to me, that's a great opportunity. That's not a rejection as in you need to rework the talk completely or it's not a good talk. It's usually just because there's not enough space on that particular track or for that topic. So if you get an invitation to speak on AW Live, I would definitely accept that if you can. And the other reason is because sometimes people will present on there and they're so very good. Like, we definitely want you to have you at the live event as well. So that's one of the best ways to get into the live event is to present on AW Live, do a great job. Let us see how you do. And then you can be invited to the next live event. Or sometimes, occasionally, if there's space and somebody drops out, I could also invite you to the one that you originally applied for. That doesn't happen often, but I will tell you, it does sometimes happen. We need people to come in last minute to give those talks. So rejections can be great opportunities just to work with that team, do your, put your best self forth and just do your thing. So I think that that's an important point to make sure you always see those, see something negative as a positive instead. Yeah, that's right, Tricia. No equals next opportunity. That's right. Okay, so those are some of the key points I had for ways that will make your talk more visible or acceptable, and basically some general tips for our event, as well as some that would apply to other events as well. And I would love to answer any questions. We have a bit of time left, and I'm sure some of you have questions or would like to chat. So does anyone have any particular questions that you might like to ask?
Hey, I have a quick question about AWE USA,
Sure.
Asia, Europe. How do you guys do all of that? Is it one committee, multiple committees? Do y'all meet together? How does that work?
So, and Dot, I'll go to your question next. I saw your hand raised. So basically we have our core team and we work on all the events together. So like, for example, I'm in charge of programming, which means I do the programming for the USA event, the EU event, and all the online events. And that means I try to make sure we have appropriate tracks and topics, and also the special type events. Like last year, we had a little esports demo and the magic session from Marco Tempest. I don't know if any of you saw it. It was actually one of my favorite things of the whole event. I loved it. So I'm in charge of that. And then we have like our marketing team and we have our ops team. So all these teams work together as our overall team to ensure that the event comes together and runs smoothly. The exception to that is we also have we work some with the Asia team, but the Asia team is separate and they also do everything pretty much on their own away from us, but they're all still part of under the AWE overall umbrella. So we coordinate just a little bit together, but that's how that works. Does that answer your question, Dash?
It does. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Dot, what was your question?
Yes, you said that in addition to talks, there are lots of other opportunities. What if we're not ready to speak yet, but would like to be involved with AWE, especially virtually? What are some of those opportunities?
Oh, that's such a good question. Thank you for asking that. So some of the opportunities, and actually, let me look here. I have a good site for you guys. There's a good link on the website. I'm going to go there now. It's about getting involved. And, well, if I can get to pull up, hold on, here we go. I'm going to drop this in here. So basically what I would recommend from the speaker side, the things that I offer are track chairs, which is absolutely my favorite role at the event. And some of you have heard me say this before because I say it all the time, but I was actually a speaker and then a track chair before I became head of programming. And it's part of the reason I actually got this job, because when I do something, typically I throw myself into it 100%. I love being a speaker. I still enjoy speaking. I also greatly enjoy being track chair, which means that you're in charge of a particular track for the duration of a day. So like AWE USA is 3 days. And so you are in charge of your track for that entire day, which means that you get to welcome the speakers, introduce them onto the stage, and then if there's like for example, a panel, you might give them their 10-minute warning or 5-minute warning that their time's almost up, and then you tell them thank you and stuff. What I did also was, and I highly recommend that our track chairs do this, is take pictures or before the event, promote those speakers on social media. Now, the reason this is an important role and such a great opportunity, Dot, is because if you are coming into the industry and just now networking, if you're really focused on the networking stage and getting to know people, it's a really great opportunity. I very much put people on the track that they're related to. So like Gina, last year, I think you were on healthcare and wellness, I believe was last year. And I try to put people on the track that relates to whatever it is they do for their regular focus. And that way they get to talk with other people who are interested in or working in that same area of the industry. And so basically I use it as an opportunity to try to make connections between our track chairs and the rest of the community. And so it's really just a fantastic opportunity to meet those people. And you're also helping us, and it helps you get in with a free speaker ticket. And you are promoted as a speaker on the website. Plus, track chairs get to be included on the agenda tracks page as well. Beyond that, depending on people's abilities or who they're involved with, of course, we have some smaller companies that want to be exhibitors. Like maybe you have a startup and you want a booth. That's always an option. Or people ask about being sponsored. If someone has like I'm sure some of you are familiar with Melody Musette, and she does Patch XR. So last year we invited her to be part of the playground, so people could just come and sit and play her music thing. And it's just fun. Those are the kind of things that are fun, but it's a way to be in the event and participating without being an actual speaker. Another thing is, for many women who are going to hear this as well, you can apply for the startup pitch. I highly recommend that anyone who is in a startup apply for the startup pitch, because we have approximately 15 spaces for those. And we like to try to, of course, have gender parity on those as well. And so about half of those are going to go to men and half to women. And it's just a great opportunity to get in there and show whatever your startup is. You get the 5 minutes to pitch, 5 minutes to answer questions, and many of those do result in investment opportunities. The last thing that I would mention is just volunteer. So if you aren't interested in doing a full day of track chair or having that responsibility, introducing people, and if none of the other things apply, then you can always volunteer. We always need more volunteers. And that gets you into the event. You're not promoted as a speaker, but you have volunteer privileges and it's a fun role. So does that answer your question, Dot?
That does. Thank you. That track chair sounds awfully tempting.
Yeah, man, I love track chairs. Like I loved doing it. And yeah, I have no intention of leaving my job. I actually like my job. But if I ever did leave my job, I would just ask to be reinstated as a track chair. Yeah,
You.
I really, really like track chair. Okay, what else? Does anybody else have other questions about all that?
I do. I think I have my hand up.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, hey, Sonia. So I just need to attest to track chairs. It's super fun. It's a little crazy the first time. Like I was a track chair last year, first time, and it was like, wow, but it's really fun and you get to meet.
It's rooted in real
on the track. It's really great networking and super fun. So, and thanks for having me again, Sonia. I appreciate it. But my question is about pitching a talk to you. Part of the difficulty I had was, I was wondering who was already participating that I could invite to a panel, because it's, it's kind of a big expense to invite, people to come, and I know that they get in free, but then they have to pay for their transportation and hotel
Right.
and all that. So it would be really awesome to find out who's already going to be there and then curate a talk or a panel from the people that are already coming. Is that possible?
Well, it's a great question. I appreciate you asking the question. And I will tell you, generally speaking, we aren't looking for proposals with people that are already going to be there. And there are several reasons for this, but the biggest one is just because our industry is growing, guys. I mean, it's like growing rapidly. And we have our core group of people, many of you guys here, and many that you all know and are aware of. And it's really fantastic to always see those people and feature those people. And we want to make sure that they have a platform or a place where they can share their latest whatever they're working on, because it's fantastic. These are the people who've built this industry from the ground up. But at the same time, there are also many new people coming into our realm, and we want to invite them to be part of this great family and the community. So I realize that the cost issue is a touchy topic. We do not, and for AWE specifically, we do not pay our speakers or provide travel or accommodations at this point. However, if you think of a lot of the people who started doing this early on, they also weren't paid, and they also paid their own travel and stuff. I'm not using that as an excuse. I'm just saying there may be people who are trying to get involved now that may need to do that same thing. They may need to make that investment. Like, you need to at some point decide, are you going to make this investment? Because the return they get, for example, with AWE, yes, you mentioned they get a free pass, which I think is around worth maybe $1,400 at the regular price for a 3-day pass. But then they kind of get a little more than that because they're treated as speakers, which means they get the speaker room and they get promotion on the website. So being able to say you're a speaker at AWE is prestigious. And so that's part of the reason we are picky about the speakers. We want it to be something where not just anybody can say they were a speaker or they won an Augie Award. There are reasons why those things are have to be worked for to be attainable. So yes, you would need to find people who are not already speaking. Think of diverse speakers. If you're interested in seeing who's already speaking or on the list, you can look at the website, because we keep our speakers updated. Like every few days, I update those speakers. So that's pretty up to date. But that's going to only help you in terms of seeing who's already speaking and then ruling them out, because you'll have to invite somebody else, Wendy. So, like, in other words, it's kind of backwards of what you're asking me. If they're already on there, probably I'm not going to have them speak again, because we want people to, if possible, be on one session, not 2 or 3 sessions. And I will tell you the other reason for this is because the number one complaint that we've seen regarding sessions and speakers is people on more than one session. People don't want to see that. Like they want to hear other voices. And so I want to hear other voices and see other voices. Some of you are aware, we do have, I will try as much as possible to help you find the right event to be at. If you're in Europe and you don't have a lot of money, I'm not going to invite you to speak in Santa Clara. Okay. I'm probably going to try to hold a spot for you for Europe. And the same thing is true. If you don't have the money to travel to Europe, then let me know that. Let me try to get you in the Santa Clara event. So there are some things we can do to help with that, but unfortunately, that's just the situation there. Okay, what else did you guys have to ask? Yes, I see. Oh, sorry, go ahead. What was the question?
Oh, sorry. This is just Stacia. I just wanted to let you know we got about 5 or so minutes, and I would really love to get a group photo on the stage with all of us who are here
That's
before
right.
we wrap up.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, look, I'm done. Everybody, shall we do that now? Shall we just go ahead and do that now? Hey,
Yeah.
thanks for look, now it's
So-
making noise because I'm dancing.
That's awesome. All right,
If
ladies.
you guys have any questions or anything, you can also reach out after. And thanks for attending today and letting me speak with you about that. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be part of your group.
Thank you, Sonya. We love that you are. You represent a tremendous organization that has been at the forefront of AR/VR since the beginning. I think so many of us have learned from AWE. We've gotten our mentors from AWE. So we're thankful that you were here with us today. You guys give Sonya a round of applause. What is that? F3, F2,
F4.
F4. I'm like, I'm trying to look for it.
So
F4,
funny.
F4. Yes. Nice. And then Dan, are you here today? Can you take a picture for us? Is it Daniel? Is it Brian? Are you? Oh, look, I'm not.
No, Daniel's not here today.
Woohoo! Woohoo! Awesome. Thank you all for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you next Wednesday too.
Hey, Sonya. Being slow.
Tell us when to smile.
Sorry, I'm with you.
Power.
Power.
Let's do the power code. Yeah. / power.
We say power. Okay, let's see. Oh, power pose.
I
All
have
right, ladies. See you next week. See you next week. Woo!
Thank you.
See you next
Thanks,
week.
everyone.
Ooh, happy Wednesday. Yes, thank you, Sonia. Really,
Thank you
really
so much.
appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, XR Women.
Wonderful.
I can't wait to see you all at can't wait to see you all at AWE. It's only 2 months away. I'm so excited.
Woo.
1 month. No, yeah.
Yeah, exactly 2 months.